I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this episode is being recorded and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Welcome to Can I Get a Refill, the podcast that offers a nurturing and inspirational space for honest and open discussions around career aspirations, wealth creation, motherhood, healthy relationships with others and the self, as well as an emphasis on physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Join us for light-hearted, authentic chats with like-minded women, as well as more in-depth discussions with industry professionals to support your ambitions and heal old wounds, as we empower you to regularly fill up your own cup. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton, singer, writer, recovering people pleaser, first-time podcast host, and first-time mum. Thank you for pressing play today, and now let's get into the episode. Hi, my friends. Just jumping in here to let you know that we experienced some slight technical issues during recording. The sound is not as crisp and clear as previous episodes, but rest assured, it's still easy to listen to. And make sure you do, as the episode is full of so much helpful content. Okay, let's jump in. Hello and welcome to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We have a great episode today for all the mums and dads and the mums and dads to be. We're talking all parenting tips and tricks with our wonderful midwife, Lisa Healy. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. We were just having such a great chat together in the car and I was like, stop talking because I want to save all this because we're going to forget what we've said and I think that I've repeated it. So I wanted to save all the great content to have a chat here. I know Lisa because I, as you all know, because I say it a gazillion times, had a baby, Leo, 9 weeks ago today. You were lucky enough to just meet gorgeous little Leo and he loved you. He just looked into your eyes and smiled the whole time. And we did a parenting class at Sutherland Hospital and you were running that class. We had 2 in-person classes and 2 Zoom classes. And I didn't really want to do classes, but I was like, you know what? I have no idea how to swaddle a baby, what to dress them in, what temperature. So I was like, we'll do it. We got so much out of that class and I'm glad. I really vibed with you because we kept both quoting Brene Brown. I remember saying to you, at first I said to Allan, I want her on the podcast. And I think I said it to you in the end and you were like, that sounds like something I'd like to do. So we're here to talk about parenting, but also because we love Brene Brown. So
we could do another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe mindset. So thanks so much for joining us today. You've got, a wealth of knowledge, but also not just because of the teachings and the work you do. Like when you go to a hairdresser, if they've got nice hair, you trust them with your hair. Your daughter, Allan says it too, is 9 years old, probably the most emotionally mature child I've ever met. And we were all quite blown away because she greeted us all with our name tags when we did the class.
I remember.
She is such emotional maturity is something I'm very interested in because it wasn't really discussed in the 80s and 90s and we were growing up.
No, not at all.
And we just discovered we were 10 days apart. So we had the same sort of upbringing. And she's really just got a head on her shoulders. So I would imagine that's a huge part of your parenting. So that's another reason why I thought it'd be great to do this.
And parenting together, I don't do it on my own.
No, absolutely. But, you've obviously come up with, great methods to really have someone that's that sort of in touch with herself already at 9 years old. She's very impressive. So before we sort of get into the questions and things like that, why don't you tell us all what you do for work?
I sometimes don't know where to start about where
it's varied, isn't it?
Yeah. And because I feel like it's a vocation. So when I'm in Sutherland Hospital and doing antenatal classes, everybody comes. They want to be there, most of them. Some don't, but they end up saying, they end up saying, I'm really glad I came.
Yes.
But it's such a lovely, safe space.
It's a safe space. And I would imagine for you it's rewarding as well, is it?
Hugely. And holding the space for people to share is the most important part of my job because any of you can read a book or watch a video on how to parent.
Yeah.
But it's
and I didn't because I opened one page of what to expect when you're expecting, which I got over 10 years ago, read one page and went, I'm going back to my Colleen Hoover books. This is so boring to me.
Yes. And we need people. So in my job number one is being a wife, I suppose.
Yep.
Job number 2, parent. Job number 3 then will be, at the moment I'm at school. So I work as a family educator in my children's school actually.
Yep.
Which is lovely. And it's all about building community and connecting parents with their children and their faith. And
And so who comes to you? Is that something that they've asked, like decided to come to you, or
No, so it's a role in Sydney Catholic schools. So there's probably like 150 Catholic schools in Sydney, and most of them will have a family educator.
But with the families that come to you, is that something that they've asked to do, or is it sort of required?
No. So they come to me. Really good question.
Yeah.
So there's no referrals. I run initiatives. So
got you.
Officially, I will run playtime, like toddler tales or playgroup.
Oh,
and so it's parish wide and school wide. So I will open it up to the kids. But when we have kindergarten starting, say next year, kindergarten, they'll have an orientation day.
Yeah.
And so I will be there to say, if you need anything, and this is the parents, so I'm there for parents. So I'll say, if you're worried about your child, I will be there, on their first day. I will be there to answer their questions, but you can also ask me questions.
I love that. And you're a very warm, engaging person. And I would imagine, especially for the first child, it would be this really bittersweet and overwhelming feeling where you're excited for them to start, but don't want to let them go.
Yes,
and then
absolutely.
Terrified, is someone going to, like, I would feel like I want to strap 20 nanny cams to Leo because I'm like, no one's going to take as good, and no one will take as good a care of your child as you do. But it's also really important, like, to let kids go and let them develop those other relationships, and not, I don't want to be a helicopter parent, but I think having you in that role would really put their mind at ease, the parents.
Yes, it's a beautiful role. So I really lay all the foundations just by being there. The less I do, the more I achieve.
I like that.
Yeah. I've had this role for a year, and I tried so hard in the beginning. And I had walk and talk, and I had invited all the parents for tea, for morning tea after kindy drop off, or year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, like welcoming them back to school. Did initiatives like for Father's Day and Mother's Day, and just basically I'm around the school gates. Yeah, so I'm around the school gates, but it's for the ones who are late.
Okay,
ones who are there late, ones who forget to wear mufti. There's a lot of, it's like the people on the periphery, because most people are dropping and going, and they're busy, but it's the ones that kind of hang around that may need some more help. But
I feel like I'm going to cry.
Actually come to me.
I can just picture. Yeah, and I reckon you've got a real sixth sense for. Yeah. It takes a particular kind of person. I don't think anyone can slot into your role. You can't. Yeah.
And I didn't know I had this thing, because it's just all my life. I'm a nurse. Like, I've been a nurse for 23 years.
That's when you know you're doing what you're doing. It's like with podcasting. Like, I was a singer and I used to songwrite, but because I never played an instrument, I love singing and I love performing that. But the songwriting was so hard for me. Nothing came natural and easily. And that's when I was like, well, maybe it wasn't until I got into this and when I started writing, it flows out of me. And I'm like, well, maybe that's what I should be doing when it's with ease. I think that's when you found your niche.
It shouldn't be that hard.
Exactly. You're sort of forcing yourself into something that you think you should be doing, but when something's easy. So it sounds like you're the right person in the right role.
Yes, and it's part-time. So it's officially 3 days a week, but it's my parish as well. So it's where I go to Mass.
Yeah.
It's where my children are. I've known the school since 2019. So I know, like, from year 4 or 5 down. Yeah. And I'm always in the right place. Yeah. And that's even here today. Or, that I walked into your session, or you walked into my session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm always in the right place at the right time, where I'm meant to be.
I'm always talking about the universe and the messages, and I'm a big believer in that. I have a lot more to say on this, but I feel like this episode will go for 3 hours. So I am going to jump into questions because you also have school pickups, and I'm not going to get into that. What tips or advice would you give mums of newborns in the first few weeks or mums and dads, the first few weeks of survival mode?
To sleep more. If they can sleep more, because sleeping when the baby sleeps isn't enough, because the baby doesn't sleep enough.
Have you seen those things on Instagram where they're like, sleep when the baby sleeps? They said, my baby.
Yes,
you can snorting noises. Yes. I cannot sleep. He's asleep, and he makes the most ridiculous noises. I said to Allan, we need to switch up the night routine. I am with Leo all day. I take him into the bathroom when I shower, sit him in the cushion. I'm singing Lady Gaga to him while I shower. I am on 24/7 with him. I need to sleep. Now, Allan, we have the luxury where Allan doesn't work for someone else. He works for himself. He's able to, wake up and go to the gym, go do a few visits of clients. He'll come home and do 10 minutes of emails, and then he's got heaps of time. I said, you need to take the bulk of the night. So we bottle feed. Allan takes the 11 p.m.-ish and the 2 a.m.-ish feed. I'm an early riser. I'm up at 5, ready for the next feed. And that's what happened last night. I feel fantastic today because I put my earplugs in. I said to Allan, did you even come in? Like I was dead to the world. And I needed it in the solid block. So I know not everyone has that luxury. And for the love of God, I don't know how single mums do this, but you're right. Sleep is everything. You can't be what you need to be to these kids without it. So
and it starts before the baby's born, I think.
Yeah.
Saying what do we do for survival? Like reaching out for help before you need it as well. So gathering your support network around you.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the support network too a bit later, but you covered that a lot in the classes. Now, I remember after the first class, I said to Allan, oh, we're good. Like, because we're really big communicators. I'm like, we really don't need all this. I really just want to know how to dress him and swaddle him because I was like, how many layers? And it's so funny. A couple of weeks into it, you're like, oh, man, this would break apart the strongest relationship. Yes. Like, I'm like, we need to communicate more. We are, we're not, we don't exist anymore. We're teammates with this kid. We're like tag team. Like there's no Allan and Steph at the moment. It's like Allan, Steph and Leo or Allan and Leo and Steph and Leo. So I see now why there was so much talking about support and mental health and oh my God.
And talking to each other, which is so hard when you're sleep deprived. So if you start talking to each other more and more clearly before the baby comes and having realistic expectations of what those first few weeks are like. So I think I did this in your class too, that, actually writing down what you expect of yourself and each other in those first 6 weeks.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it's something that I didn't really know how to answer that well back then, but it does make sense. Yeah. And I think a lot of the women were like, I know what I said. And all the women were like, yes. I was like, I need my mornings, so I'm going to need you to take him so I can do some meditation sure enough, when I've been here doing workouts or doing meditation, and when I've got him, he doesn't give me that much time. So I'm trying to meditate with this baby in my arms and it's not the same.
And like you said about when I said you need to sleep more, like that's the advice I would give, but you also need to have time on your own to remember
100%.
that you're still Steph.
Yes.
I'm still Lisa
100%.
Without eyes on me and feeling like I'm switched on all the time, having to entertain.
And I find it hard to leave the house with him. I feel this pull, like I don't want to leave him. But the second I'm in the car, I feel great. I went back to the gym a week ago. So I waited the 6 weeks to exercise and did 2 weeks of exercising at home. Then went back to the gym last week. I go to the gym every day pre-baby. I felt so great because when I exercise here, he'll start crying 20 minutes into it and I end up squatting and lunging, holding him. And he weighs like 6 kilos, so it's a good weight.
And you're exercising for your mental health as well, not just your physical health.
So when I got there and I didn't have to think, where is he? What's he doing? Is that his cry? Because I hear the phantom cries all the time. Not how I normally rush my workouts and rush home. I took my sweet ass time.
It makes us all better moms and better wives and girlfriends.
Well, it's funny you say that. I want to bring up, there's an influencer, Steph Claire Smith, who posted something the other week where she went to do a workout. I think her husband was traveling and she had a baby, and someone wrote there, who ended up closing their Instagram page because I'd say people were writing back to her, if it's your day with your baby, why did you go to the gym? Shouldn't you have taken him to the park? Now, if anyone, I'll say now, if anyone wants to come on my page and say stuff like that, I'd rather not have you follow me because that being a mum is the hardest job in the world. Politicians have nothing on being a mum. If someone's going to, and from another woman is a knife in the chest judge.
That really upsets me because women should be supporting women and building each other up.
100%. Yeah. Now, first of all, I don't think the baby cares if you have an hour workout at all because she's with him 24/7. But the best thing you can be, and you said this in the parenting class when we were talking about breastfeeding, or we'll get to that later, the best thing you can be for your baby is a happy mum. So
that's different. That means something different to everybody at different times, at different weeks, at different days.
I would make no apologies for having time off and needing time off. And you don't realize, I said to Allan last night, care of self. And I said to Allan last night, I said, oh, you really get it now, don't you? When all my mum friends are like, I need to get away. I need it, I said, you really get it because it's just, and it's not him. Like when I see him smile, he brings joy. It's just the constant, everything's so constant. The feeds are you're constantly feeding. It's relentless.
Yeah, it's a word I really like to use.
It's like, I feel like I just get 10 minutes and then the next feed's up again because he falls asleep on my chest. I'm soothing him and burping him for so long. It's nearly time for the next feed. It is relentless.
And you always have to pick between sleep and eat, or rest
Yeah.
and eat, or shower and eat, or sleep.
Yeah.
So it's very overwhelming.
Yeah. What other advice would you give to mums in survival mode?
To be really clear with your partner about your expectations in those first few weeks.
Is it just with your partner, or do you think boundaries of loved ones as well?
Oh, 100% boundaries.
Because they might be thinking, oh, great. And from a loving place, they want this from you and to see the child, and you might need, and vice versa, you might need their help.
Yes.
So you can have a nap.
And you can change your mind, but you have to have the boundaries in the first place and the expectations, and to be more clear.
Yeah.
But to be clear, you have to know what you want in the first place. So you have to hold that space to talk about it before the baby even comes.
Yeah, and I no judgment on couples who do this, but I'm always so surprised when people will get together and have a kid like 3 months later. I'm like, wow, you haven't even gotten to those discussions, because Allan and I have been together 9 years, and I felt like we really had to have very long discussions.
Yes.
I was like, are you going to play less video games because I need you more? You know, like
Absolutely.
long
Your
discussions.
baby, but it's your baby needs you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Not you. He's not doing any of these things for you. It's so he has a better relationship with his baby.
I don't thank him when he looks after him, because he's not doing me a favor. He's parenting his child. It's 50-50. So,
And you can say, I love the dad that you are. Love the dad you're growing into. And that's so much more rewarding for him than you saying, thanks for babysitting.
Yes.
That's
and
so
I do
degrading
love
to
seeing
say.
them together. I was just saying to
You'll
you.
fall in love with him more and more.
Yeah, and I did, especially when I was pregnant. It sort of died off with the lack of sleep. It's dulled a little bit. I'm sure it'll come back. But
we should talk about that too. How
your whole relationship changes.
Yes,
Your whole relationship changes.
Yeah, it goes to a much deeper level.
If anything, maybe it's worse that we were together, just the two of us, for so long, because I'm like, oh my God, we would just up and go to things all the time. And now I'm trying to think of child-friendly places to go to, because it really impacts your relationship. But I love watching him be a dad. I love watching the two of them. There's something I was just saying to you where I have read that dads play, like the kids will go to the dad for play and go to you for nurturing. And Leo just loves being a sook with me and, you know, burrowing like a koala and sleeping on my chest, whereas he won't sleep on Alan's chest. But I love watching them play, and they vocalize so much on the bed. Like, it looks like a full conversation. And I love watching it. Yeah,
it is.
It is lovely to watch. You know, you're talking about communication and putting those things in place before you have a child, which I think is important. Something came up in my mind this week. Do you think you need to have conversations with people around you as well? Because I'm seeing a lot of people who rely on their parents to babysit so much. And I'm like, did they have a chat with the parents before that? And, you know, like, hey, before we have kids, just checking in, are you going to be able to look after them this long? Because it's not something that Allan and I plan to do. For a couple of reasons. Our parents, it's a bit of a drive. I actually think it's probably would be more work on me to drive my kids to my parents. His parents are even further. So we're looking at doing childcare 1 day a week, and then, you know, we both work from home and we'll juggle. But do you think that's something that they should communicate with their loved ones?
Absolutely. But think, why? And if they don't communicate it, why do they think it's a given that their parents should look after their own child?
Yeah, that's true.
And like, we didn't have any family here, and we're a much stronger family for it.
Oh, I remember us discussing that.
We don't feel obliged to anybody. Yeah. If I wanted,
I would feel guilt, I think.
And the obligation that if you owe your parents something then, or it comes with. So my friend's mom got her a new fridge. Okay. And my friend was like, no, I don't really need a new fridge. I don't want a new fridge. And mom's like, no, I really want to get this for you. Mm-hmm. And then she, you know, comes over every week and expects dinner, because she bought her the new fridge. It's like strings attached. It's like
strings attached. Now,
so whereas
I don't accept monetary, like big money thing from family, and they are willing to give it, but I don't do it for that reason, because I don't want you to ever think, well, I did that for you. Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to owe anyone anything. Yeah. And I'm not saying that necessarily they would. I just don't want that hanging over my head that someone's going to come to me.
And like you say about childcare, like if I want my kids minded, I will either ask like a very trusted friend from my mom's group, and because she has a baby the same age, they'll just mind the two, and then I'll.
Yeah, and then you can do that for them. So you wouldn't feel guilty because you're like, hey, pay it back. Yeah, I have I was telling you, one of my friends is so great that even Allan was like, let's get her as a babysitter because we love how she parents her two boys. She's a little bit further out. So again, I don't really have a lot of local friends, but I was saying to you in that parenting class, we're still all in that chat, and we've made good friends from there. We're doing a mum walk on Monday. And shout out to Claire. We one of the girls, we text each other every day, and she's a suburb, like just literally.
I think that's
so close.
Like, that's the greatest feedback I can receive from an antenatal class.
It's
that
so
you're
fantastic.
Friends.
And her and I said the same thing. It's just so great to have someone to go to. We don't even have all the history like I do with my best friends, but my best friends don't have
You don't have
newborns.
baggage.
Yeah, that's true. But my best friends don't have newborns. They're a bit further ahead, so they're great at giving me advice. But at 2 a.m. when we're having meltdowns, we can go to each other and we're looking at each other and it's like, I see you. I know you're going through it. I hear you.
And it will be okay.
Yeah. And it's like one day my kid's screaming all day, the next day her kid. And it's like, so when I've had good sleep, I can give her the good emotional support and vice versa.
Each other up.
Yeah. And then we can go for walks, but it's been really good to have that support network. So yeah, I'm sort of like you. I would probably rely more on friends.
Because they're doing it because they want to, not because they have to.
I agree. And I also think they know.
Kind of love.
And it's also like, like your parents mightn't have parented for 40 years. So that things are updated and changed. I mean, my parents are phenomenal grandparents and my niece and nephew. It's not that. It's more that I would feel guilty that I'm taking time out of their retirement. Whereas my friends, if you look after my kid, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You want a date night with your husband? You got it.
Yeah.
Drop
and
the
lot
kids.
Of parents are grandparents are working.
Yeah,
as
you
well
might
nowadays.
They're
Like their younger grandparents they work.
It's
they work
full
for
on.
longer.
But looking after big kids all day, it's such a job. That's why when people say when I return to work now, I say I'm returning to paid work.
Yes.
Because this is work.
Yes. And that's what I always say too.
I had this really naive thing that maternity leave would be doing arts and crafts and being barefoot in my little yard. And I haven't had one day in that yard on my picnic blanket with Leo yet.
Back when you're hopeful.
Oh my God. I feel like it. But also in the beginning, you have a lot of medical appointments and stuff. I just feel like I'm constantly doing things. Anyway, we digress. What I'm going to touch on is you were talking about having support people. Now, you brought this up in the parenting class. Why is it important for both parents to have a support person? Because you kept asking the dads, and I love how now people ask the dad things. So every time I gave birth at the Royal in Randwick, it was a wonderful experience. Both in your class and at the Royal, they would go to Allan at the end and go, and how does that suit you? How do you feel about that? Right. And he looked shocked that someone asked him something, but why wouldn't you ask them? They're part of it. So why is it important for both of us to have a support person?
Because mums and dads process things so differently. And often when women need support, they just need someone to listen to them. Like we said about, I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you, but I don't need to fix anything.
Yes. I bring this up in all of my podcasts. I need to feel seen. I need to feel heard. And I always say that this is a new thing I say to friends now. What do you need from me? Do you need advice or do you just need to vent? Yeah. And a lot of the time is you just want to get it off your chest without any judgment.
Without interruptions.
Yes.
Without a fix at the end, without a tick box, without other jobs to do. Whereas dads, when they need support, it's generally a fix. So dads will need a solution.
Because they're more practical maybe?
It makes them feel a lot better. So there's a really good book called Why Mars and Venus Collide.
Okay.
And it's about how we process and how we feel seen and heard. So for dads, they want to fix your problem because they love you and they want to make it better. And when they fix
it.
Yep. And when they fix your problem, their testosterone levels increase.
Oh, they're rewarded.
They feel so good. Yep. Oh. Okay, but when we talk to our husbands...
No, that's so true, because if I have a tech issue, Allan looks like he's so valuable to me because he's able to solve it.
When you talk to him and you just...
It's such a light bulb. Sorry, I can't believe I didn't see this before.
That's good.
Yeah.
But then when he's trying to fix your problem and you don't want it to be fixed, he feels so useless.
My God. It's one of the only arguments we have, because he'll try to... And I think I do this sometimes with family as well, where you try and fix it and I'm like, let me vent. Let me complain.
Yeah.
This is hard. I want to say it without you going.
Yes, I want to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And I want to finish it, because this is how women process things. We say things out loud and we hear them.
Because every time we have chats like that, I'm like, I wish one of my girlfriends lived here, that I could just have this chat with them now in person.
That's why mums and dads need different support people.
That's really funny, because I've always said that about everybody. You have to have a varied group of people. You cannot spend all your time with family and relatives, because you're a very different person with kids. And I think it's really important to have varied groups that you hang out with, and also ages. I was just saying to you, one of my best friends is a 64-year-old man, and the relationship I have with him is very different too. I have, females in their 20s, and I love their vigor and their...
We are so alike.
Yes, we are. Yeah. And I think it's so important, because I'm getting... Yes, and I've got such a rich tapestry of friendships because it's so varied. So, and a lot of people won't understand that, or
No.
will like, why are you friends with this 64-year-old man? And I'm like, get each other. Like, yeah.
Well, that's funny. For school holidays, me and the two kids are going down to my friend, and she's 70. So we're going down to her, and we're staying the night with her and her husband.
Yeah.
And then
I've always had friends in that age group. I mean, not as much now because I'm so busy, but
yes,
yeah.
Well, see, mine are a bit older now.
Yeah.
But on Sunday, I'm going to a 30th birthday party.
Yes.
So it's like the age range from 30 to 70.
Don't you feel like we just had 30th and now it's like I just had my 40th? It's crazy, right?
But yeah, we do. We need different people for different things.
Yeah.
And that's why mums and dads need different support people. And generally the dads will be wanting to fix something. So actually what you said is really clever. You could almost give him a problem to fix so he feels
value.
Yeah. And then when you're wanting to just be heard, talk to your friend. So
do you know, that's funny because that's what a lot of parents of adult children feel, that empty nest syndrome. They don't feel needed anymore, and that's when they feel sad. So maybe that's how a husband feels needed and valued. And that's really true. He really does. Like if he fixes one little thing, like he's like, yep, like he feels really valuable, and he is valuable. But it's that's so interesting.
It changed it probably saved my marriage.
Yeah,
I discovered it after I had kids.
But see how looking at things, stopping and analysing things is a relationship saver. This is what I've always talked about with the older generation, where they just let's just keep moving and sweep things under the rug. They almost wore. I find that older people wear a badge of honour, like in my day we work. We not even worked through problems. We stuck out marriages. Yeah. Well, in the 50s, most wives are on lithium. So I actually don't think you should be proud. I think I don't think divorce is a bad thing. And sometimes you outgrow people. Sometimes you married the wrong person. I think, like analysing things all the time is healthy. It's
like the reflecting. Like
I'm not nitpicking. I'm just analysing. Yeah. It's good. How can it be better? Do you know what I mean? Yes. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to do that all the time. Now, with the support person, just really quick, is that through pregnancy as well, do you think? Would you recommend starting a pregnancy where a mate, because Allan's friends all had babies, so I thought it was really good for him to chat with those friends.
Yes, because you start looking at who you might need after the baby's born.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to be going to raves for a whole weekend anymore.
Yeah.
So what are my friends doing that I can go to?
Yeah.
If they're going to go darts on a night out, go to that for an hour or two, as opposed to golfing friends that go away for a weekend.
Yeah, well, he still loves his golf, but he hasn't been going away. I'll share a little story purely because Allan does not listen to this podcast, and I pray he doesn't on a one-off think, I'll listen to this one. But this is a little private story that when I first came home with Leo, I was saying to you, we were in the hospital for 5 days, so Leo and I bonded, and the midwives showed me everything, and I felt like I got home and I had it down pat. And Allan, who is the rock and the chilled one in the relationship, looked panicked, almost like he was judging and second-guessing himself, like he wasn't. And he was a great dad from the get-go, but almost like he was not doing a great job in his own head. And I worried about him, so I texted one of his best friends who I'm really close with and asked him, I said, look, I've never told Allan, so I pray he doesn't hear, and he just thinks that the call was out of the blue, but I said, just give him a call and see how he's going. You should have seen Allan's energy change when he got off the phone. He was like, that was nice. Like he felt so happy. Actually, the friend sometimes listens to this podcast. So,
shout out to that
if you hear this, thank you for being that friend.
Yeah.
But it was really important. And
you need to hear from someone else.
Your words echoed in my ear after that, because I was like, support person is vital, because it is a huge life change. So it is good to have someone, and also professional help too. You and I both believers in psychology and reaching out for help when you need it. This is a question that was the number one question I wanted to ask you, purely because we talked about it a lot in the class. What are your thoughts on screen time with babies? Now, let's preface by saying we are not throwing any judgment at any parents that do have screens in front of their kids. We're talking about our personal preferences, what has worked for you and what I believe will work for me. So it's a safe space.
I know now.
Yeah, and it's a safe space. So say what you really believe has worked well for you and what you know now.
When I had my first baby, we had no family here, and we still don't. And so I used to talk to Ava all the time. I'd have music on. I would have lullabies on. I would, when I went to to brush my hair, brush my teeth. I carried her a lot too.
Yes.
So she was on me like in a baby carrier.
That's really good to do chores, because I can't do things one-handed. So the baby carriers are
and
good.
Just with TV, we were never a TV type family anyway.
Yeah, you're still not, are you?
No. So the TV would only go on if we were watching a program together, Friday night at nighttime. And I just intuitively felt I didn't want the TV on around her. And I thought, if the
May I ask why? Was it because you wanted to interact with her rather than her staring at a screen?
Yes. And
or
I suppose
more behavioural?
if I'm very honest, I think I thought I'm so much all or nothing person. I was quite afraid that if I put the TV on for 10 minutes to have a break.
It's a slippery slope.
I was afraid I would lose myself.
Yeah, and I think you said to me, that parents will throw a phone in front of a kid when they're screaming to make it easier for them. And I get it. It is damn hard to be a mum, especially if you're out in public and they're having a tantrum. But I think you said it will be harder then to get the screen off them once they're used to it.
Yeah, so parenting is hard and a screen makes it harder,
not
easier.
In the long run.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Putting on music, but bringing them out on the balcony if you're hanging out the clothes.
Yeah.
Out to the garden if you're hanging out clothes. Into the shower if you're having your shower, doing your makeup. They love to watch you.
I was just saying, I put him in the cushy and position him to face me no matter what I'm doing around the house. If I leave him on his own and he's staring, he will cry. If he's watching me, he really watches. Yeah.
And you get to know somebody by spending time with them.
Yeah.
So putting the TV on, it just clouds everything.
Yeah. And I brought up to you, I used to be a songwriter, and when I came up with ideas, there were only two places that would happen. One, when I would go on a long walk in nature with no headphones in, and two, in the shower. And really good hooks would come to me, and I'm like, and I truly believe it's because it was the only two times I was bored. And I believe that in this day and age, and there's a lot of studies around it, that we're not allowing ourselves boredom. We are therefore not allowing creativity to flow in.
And that's what I say to my kids.
We're literally occupying our time all the time. So when I get my nails done, I don't scroll on my phone. I like to people watch. But having that boredom because I do find that now I constantly have my phone going with and it's good stuff. I'll watch, manifestation videos and things that are really but I'm like, I need to turn it off for a little bit because there's just constantly something entertaining me and I need some boredom to be creative. So I worry if I had screens in front of Leo all the time, am I giving him the space to be bored and come up with something? I just feel like he's not going to be as imaginative. Do you remember when we were kids? Yes. I remember my favourite game was Alligators, where me and my childhood best friend, Michaela, we would be at school on these steps and pretend that the ground was water with alligators and I'm like,
I don't think we had that one, but I'm from Ireland. So.
But do kids, if they've got screens in front of them,
kids need to play.
Are they imagining? Are they as imaginative as they were in the 80s and 90s? I worry about that.
And I think that's the thing, more than boredom, actually not even the boredom part, but the soothing, the self-regulation. If your child, so it's kind of going off topic, but if your child is crying and you stick a screen in front of them, it automatically calms them down.
Okay, so they're not learning to self-soothe?
So they're not learning to self-soothe. So then when you take away the phone, that's the other issue, then they want it back because it helps them soothe.
That's interesting.
They never learn how. So instead of putting a phone in front of them, and you told me this before in the kitchen, you get down on their level and you sit beside them. You don't have to do eye contact, but you can sit beside them and you can say, I hear you. That's sad.
Yeah.
I know that you're crying. Or like I did with Leo and I came in.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, do you have some wind? Do you have a bubble? And you make eye contact, you talk to them. And you talked about this too, about sitting in the uncomfortableness of them crying or of them being angry and say, anger is okay.
I love that. I mean, it's harder when he's a baby. I really do look forward, but I don't want to wish time away when he talks so I can say, have those conversations too. It's probably a bit harder. I do that with my niece and nephew. But on the self-soothing, what are your thoughts on the picking up when they cry? Because I just instinctively, because I'm worried I'm going to upset the neighbours with his crying, so I always pick him up. But now I'm trying to let him sit in it just for a few minutes. But I'll sit with him, but not pick him up. And I'm like, I understand. And I do soothing tones. And then I'm always like, self-soothe, Leo.
Yes, and it's age appropriate too. And it's how it feels in your heart.
What's age appropriate in your opinion?
So he's 9 weeks now. Mm-hmm. So you probably would have picked him up a lot in the first 6 weeks.
100%. Yeah. And a nurse did say to me from 6 to 12 weeks is when they start to learn things. So they learn, I cry, she picks me up, I got it. Yeah. It's like the bell. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding.
And he feels loved and secure and safe. And then maybe from about 12 weeks, and I mean, he's doing it beautifully already, but from 12 weeks, you can be sitting with him, patting him, tapping him, sitting in the room with him.
Yeah.
But if it feels right to pick him up, pick him up.
Yeah. Sometimes I want the cuddle.
I don't think that you need to worry about self-soothing.
Everyone's always saying, nurses and my best friends are going, you can't overlove your child.
The more love you give your baby,
Yeah.
the more love they're capable of giving out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the TV and the self-soothing is only when you can't soothe them anymore and you give them a screen.
Yes.
And I suppose to answer your question I didn't have the confidence to say this before, but I think a screen is detrimental to your child's development.
Yeah.
And
I
never
agree.
felt like I could say that before.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Why did you not feel that you could say that before?
Because I think people would think I was saying it out of judgment because, I didn't do this to my children, so you shouldn't.
And
but
we're not
research
judging them.
No, there's research to back up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and we get why they feel the need to put a screen there.
Yeah,
totally get it.
I want to help the parent. I want to say to the parent, how can I make this easier for you? And it will go back to having support people, reaching out for help. Yeah, that's the two.
And you're saying this from a place where you are seeing children over and over and over again. No one listened to me. I've got a 9-week-old baby. This is what I'm doing for me. You're seeing it over and over and over again, and you're seeing that it's detrimental.
Absolutely.
And they're more engaged. I always say I worry about the EQ of that generation when they're adults. So when they're running companies and have to sit and have conversations with their staff, if they only communicate online by texting people, they might struggle with that EQ. So, we were the kind of kids where I loved how our parents took us everywhere. Yes. They had dinner with their friends. We came along. So when I was a little kid in primary school, I'd be in the kitchen chatting with my friends' mums. I always had, which is probably why I have a 64-year-old friend. I always had a knack for talking with the older generation because my mum took me everywhere and included me in it. So I want to be like that with my kids.
And it's like when I see people in, the RSL or the Bolo with their family and the kids are on screen, just wonder why. Why
you're missing core memories.
And I think it's because they don't know how to interact with their children.
Yeah.
Because
I have core memories. I remember vividly dinners out with my parents in the 90s.
And you colour in.
Yes,
you get colouring in packs.
Cronulla RSL has whole packs with.
And I think it's because, and maybe touching on what you said, I think it's because parents don't want to disturb any other families having dinner. And they want the children to be quiet. I think
they're doing it out of being kind to others. Yeah.
But I think they have to look inwards and think what's best for our family.
Yeah.
And practicing. We started in our family having Tuesday nights dinner out. Like we do it once a month.
Yeah.
And so we're on our best behavior. We use our manners. We have what I do call forced family fun sometimes. And that we have that time together. And my kids never had a screen at TV.
Change the word forced to encourage, and it won't feel like such a chore.
I've just said family fun now. I've dropped the word forced. But we called it forced family
fun. Scheduled.
And it was like everyone knew what to expect. They do colouring ins. They talk to people at the other tables.
Yeah.
They know the waitress's name.
Yeah.
It's
like I said, I didn't meet your son, but I've met your daughter, and she has emotional maturity. She has that EQ. She would know how to talk to anyone of any age because she's been allowed,
and she's seeing it. I think,
and
she's allowed to express it, and she's allowed to talk to people. I think people are afraid to let their children talk to people.
Yeah, let them engage. And also, like I was saying, I have these wonderful nephews on Alan's side where the two eldest ones are really outgoing, and the third one is an observer, and I love my relationship with him. And he, like I said, he's 17 in a few weeks, a man with hairy legs now. It's crazy, but he was 8 when I met him, and he sat in the back seat of the car of Allan and I, and he was watching us so intently in the rearview mirror and said, "How did you two meet?" Burst into laughter that an 8-year-old said that. He was so curious. He was watching us so intently that he was probably like, "Oh, this is an interesting dynamic. I want to find out where they met." That kid has great EQ, and both their parents have always encouraged them to be out and talking to others. But just different personality types. But I like it. But you know what else? Let the kids be crafty. I remember my mum used to buy from Franklin's. No, how long have you been? When did you move here?
Oh, I've been here for 18 years.
No, you wouldn't remember Franklin's.
I don't know Franklin's.
In the 80s and 90s, before Coles and Woolies, you'd get your groceries, like your meat from the butcher, your fruit from a fruit shop, and then the general grocery from Franklin's.
Okay.
And there was one in Hurstville, and they used to have these like strips of like plasticine or Play-Doh, and they were all different colours. And every time we used to go to Italy on family holidays to see my relatives over there, and it was a damn long flight, and my mum would give me that. I would build a whole doll's house with furniture. I remember I was so proud of it in a shoebox. I had the taps on the sink. But that's what I would do the whole plane ride instead. Like they would show only one movie on the big screen. I remember in 1989, my first trip, it was Beaches, Bette Midler.
Oh,
It's the first time I ever cried at a movie. I was 6 years old. And that's what you'd get. You'd get like one movie and you'd all have to watch that. You wouldn't have the screen. And I loved doing craft. It kept me busy and distracted. So I'm not saying I never will. I don't want to ever give him handheld devices, but I'm such a Christmas person. I really want him to sit and watch Christmas movies with me. Maybe not this year, but I definitely want to do that.
As you say, like
it's a family event. Let's get popcorn. Let's sit together and let's watch a Christmas movie.
You're not using it as a babysitting tool or to keep the kids quiet.
Because I babysat my nephew and I was so excited to have him here. There was a movie called The Star.
You don't want to miss those things.
No.
The Star's amazing.
Do you know it? About
the donkey.
Yes, that movie gets me. Yes. Like, I love that movie. So I definitely want to do that with Leo.
As you say about core memories, they're so important. And with your kids, you might have 16 summers.
Oh, when you read those things, did the tears not well up? Like,
absolutely, and
make the most of it.
Every minute counts, but you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there. You just have to be present. You
can't be perfect all the time. You can't be perfect. You can stuff up all the time. I think I even said that about this podcast. I edit the crap out of it because I stuff up all the time. I don't care. You just got to give things a go. No, that's so true. That's good. And again, we're not judging people who do it. I get why it happens. Yep. It's just something that I choose not to, that I'm going to try and avoid as much as possible. And it's something that you're seeing with all the children that you see, that it has been detrimental. And it's more beneficial to not, so that they've got that EQ.
And then I would ask, how can I help the parents? Like, why are you giving this child that screen? Oh, because maybe I'm overworked.
Maybe the other parent needs to support more and give them that time off. So, mum's non-stop. So the dads really do need to step up.
Put your child in after-school care.
Yeah.
But some people think, oh no, if I do that, I'm not a good mom. I'll have them at home. But
then
they're at home.
They love it. My bestie's just gone back into work, and at first she was
preschool, daycare.
Yeah. Well, she was upset, like not upset, but she was like, oh, it's going to be hard to put him. And a friend of hers was like, nah, I'm looking forward to it. She's like, I've got to change my mindset, because she was like, he's going to have a ball. Like he's going to be social. He's very engaging, and I think he would just make friends so easily. And sure enough, he's loving it. Like, of course they're going to get sick, but they've got to build up their immunity somehow. They're always going to come home sick. Might as well start it now. But I think it would be really great. I remember loving being at anything with peers, and I think it's important for them to mix with people their age. So, I just wish it was so much cheaper childcare.
Yes.
For God's sake. Well, this sort of carries on, but what are some ways to engage with and connect with your baby for the first 6 months?
I mean, I've seen you do it since I walked in the house with Allan.
What did I do?
Well, you talk to him.
Yeah, I love
you talk to them.
I believe. Do they call it vocalizing? My mum said they used to call it vocalizing.
Yeah, we still do. Yeah. But I say this all the time. Like, you just have to talk, sing, laugh, play, and read to them.
I love the reading.
Just interacting, getting
singing.
To know them.
I do that. So talk. Yeah.
Sing, laugh, play, and read.
Yeah. I got the books with very sort of tactile, where they got like fluffy things on there.
You can read a magazine or your book. You can read out loud your own book to him.
Funny you say that. When I try and do baby talking, he's not as interested. It's so funny. If I talk to him like I'm talking to a friend, I'm like I'll get. Last night I was trying on outfits, and I'm like, I'm literally talking to Leo, a 9-week-old, on the bed, and I'm like, I'm thinking I'm going to wear this outfit for the podcast, and maybe wear this when I go into office with the girls. And then I look at him and I point and I go, what do you think? He laughs his head off when I talk just my normal adult voice, and I'm like, I don't need the baby voice. This kid just loves a
You change
chat.
your tone and you change your facial expressions, but I will be the same. I said to a 3-year-old today, so what's the plan for the rest of the day? Are you going to have a nap? What are you going to do? Because they will, when you make eye contact with them, they connect much more. You get to know your child by looking for their reaction.
Yeah.
So you talk, sing, make them laugh and laugh.
He likes it. Yeah.
And let him see you and Allan having fun together.
We do like dancing and that, and then we kiss, and I like to see if he gets jealous, because I used to have a Cocker Spaniel that would get jealous if you were kissing anyone but her, and she would bark. Allan is so good with kids. They all go to him. And I said, it's so annoying. Like, he's got a calm energy that I don't think it's what he does. I think it's who he is. However, he said, it's because I just talk to them how I talk to everyone. And I noticed it, and it's true. And now that I'm doing it with Leo, I'm like, it's true. Yeah. Kids probably think I'm talking at them when I do the baby voice. And then when I just talk, like, Leo loves it. So I think that Alan's right. I think that's what he does. Maybe they feel valued and respected that you're talking to me like you're talking to an adult, so I'm included. Yeah. Another thing that I plan to do as he gets older, I can't do it now, but Georgie Stevenson, she runs a podcast called Rise and Conquer, which is my favorite, and Naked Harvest, it's a supplement company, but she has I'm not sure how old her daughter is. She's a toddler. She speaks, but she said I include her in the decision making. She'll be like, I come downstairs and I'm like, I can't remember the kid's name, but she's like, I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'll sit with you and we'll have breakfast, and then we'll do playtime. Is that okay with you? How does that sound to you? And she goes, even though I've already made the decision, she feels like she's being included in the decision. I feel like that's something that never really happened as kids when we were kids. It was more you respect adults, do what adults say. And I think I was
just respectful out of fear. We're respectful out of fear, not because we understood or because it was kind and tender.
I think, and I was always a strong-willed child. I wasn't naughty, but I always feel like Matilda, that movie. I wasn't, punished for being smart, for being a smart aleck. I was never a smart aleck. I just had an opinion. Yeah. I wasn't trying to be rude. So I think, my dad grew up in Sicily in the 50s. I think that was something that my mum got me more as a kid, and she would include me in decisions. But I think my dad probably struggled with the fact, why is this 7-year-old girl talking back to me when I just wanted to talk and have opinions on my life? You know what I mean?
But even now with Leo, you can say, would you like to sit here or here when we're having our bottle? And then, and
I do it. He can't answer back, but I'm getting him used to it.
Pointing soon, or he'll look, and even though he's not actually answering you, you can go, oh, let's go there today.
Alan did it last night. He was lying on the bed, elevated because he gets reflux and he's dribbling. And he was really antsy. And Alan's like, what's wrong? Is it your mouth or is it your tummy? And but he would touch his mouth as he asked the mouth, and he would smile when he touched the mouth, and then get cranky when he touched the belly. And we're like, okay, he's gassy.
Yeah, and it was just a really good habit because you'll do it in 6 months' time, a year's time, and you won't have to try. It's just how you communicate with each other.
That's true.
And you give him 2 choices, like, do you want to wear the blue jumper or the green jumper? You don't care what he wears, but it's giving him 2 choices that you're happy with.
Won't that make them more independent? I feel like that's what I struggled with when I was young. No one allowed me to make decisions that I didn't trust myself, and I made poor decisions in my 20s. And I truly believe it's because I wasn't given the opportunity to make decisions. And I mean, from all areas, from school, from society, from home.
But I
was told who to be. Yeah. And parents wrap their kids in cotton wool and they think they're doing it out of love. But you know what I think? This is my personal opinion. I actually think they're doing it out of love for themselves rather than for the child, because if the child got hurt, it would hurt them. Oh, I truly believe that people are safeguarding themselves instead of letting them fall over and stumble. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because they don't know how to sit with the crying child. We want to fix it. Let's get a Band-Aid and fix that. Where I will say, ow, that hurts. Let's just sit here for a minute.
Yeah.
And you can cry.
I feel like I said this with you before, I feel like I want to have those chats with my children when they get older of, when they do something wrong, instead of telling them that was wrong, saying, well, do you think that was the right decision? And I want to put something on them. And if they think if they say no, maybe not, I'll say, well, what could you do differently next time? Yes. Or if something's happened and they're visibly upset, I want to say, I want to ask them. I feel like people always talked at me. No one talked to me. And I think for years I've struggled with not feeling seen and heard. And I think with girls and women more so in society. There's this Alanis Morissette song, underestimated and impatient little girl raising her hand. That's one of the lines. But I just always felt, talked at, instead of talked to, instead of, you know what I mean? Absolutely, I was never, so I want to be able to, if they're hurting, it'll be hard because you're a lioness with your cubs and you want to fix things and you want to protect them. But I just want to ask them, how does that make you feel? And sit in the uncomfortable.
How can I help you? What do you need from me?
Yeah.
Because you want to give them the tools for in life. So when you're not there anymore, or they go to high school and all of a sudden they're supposed to know how to cross the road.
Yeah.
But you've been walking them to school for the whole time and until you're 6.
I was always smart. I was always a smart kid. I made some very poor choices through my teens and my 20s that did not serve me in any way. And I don't know if it was out of I had low self-esteem and I was doing things on subconsciously that would, harm me in some way. But I think I don't know if I didn't think I deserved better, but what I think this is why I wanted a daughter first. And most of my friends are male. So in a way, it worked out better for me having Leo. But I think I wanted a girl to allow her the opportunity to make mistakes and not wrap her in cotton wool. But more than that, teach her sort of the self-esteem and good lessons to make better choices. So I think I was probably lacking the ability to make good choices for myself. And if I could go back now, I would do so much different just because I at 41 know that I am worth so much more than what Steph at 17 thought she was worth, you know?
Yeah.
So that's something I want to do. Easier said than done. Leo's 9 weeks old. I get it. But I want to be able to teach my kids to really value themselves. And that's something that Louise Hay always talked about. You know, you never used algebra in your life that you learned at school. Had they taught them self-esteem, self-worth, you know, especially with consent and things that they're bringing into schools now. Like women are getting killed 4 times a week or something. Do you know what I mean? Like a rapid rate.
Yeah.
And because when I was in a violent relationship many years ago, I didn't value myself enough. I made a poor choice.
And you think it's your own fault. You think I must have done something.
It was 100% his fault, that's for sure. But if I valued myself more, I think I could have at least left earlier. Do you know what I mean? So if we taught kids more like this, and this is a school system too, like teach them to meditate, teach them self-esteem, and teach them how to look after their finances and do their taxes. Like let's teach them practical things.
I think by the time Leo gets to school, you'll be very pleasantly surprised.
I think it's going to change a lot, right?
Because at school now they do mindfulness time in the morning.
Mindfulness, I love
so lovely. They might do some colouring in, or they might do some building with blocks, depending on what that child needs.
Yeah.
They have brain breaks after like 30 to 40 minutes.
That's fantastic.
They have BU buddies. So if they see someone walking around the playground that doesn't have a friend, there's like people who will say, oh, come play with us. It's really inclusive and really lovely. And in the older years, they will get like a financial planner to come in and tell them about finances and opening a bank account. So
my wish is already granted.
We've come a long, long way because we learned nothing like that in school.
Nothing. Yeah.
And we do classes. Guy Sebastian has sort of...
I have seen him at schools. What does he do?
So he supports this program called Open Parachute, which is Australian-based kids, but it's got like an American like psychologist, and they talk about, it's very age appropriate. So they talk about bullying, they talk about consent, they talk about self-worth, they talk about anxiety, and it's children talking about it. And so they do this as part of the curriculum. It's amazing. So I would love it for parents. I feel like kids can teach us a lot more now because we have all this.
That is fantastic.
So we're raising a really good generation.
I'm so glad to hear that. What are some common mistakes new parents make, and what do you wish they knew? That's a tough one.
They don't listen to themselves enough.
I had a lady on, we were talking about parenting, Ash, and I asked her number one tip was listen to your instincts. I had this recently where I knew Leo would have gut issues because I've had gut issues since birth, and I bought goat's formula thinking it's going to be gentler on the tummy than cow, and everyone I spoke to, all the nurses and midwives were like, you got to get him on cow. We recommend that. I put him on it, so constipated. He was so unwell, and then I put him on goats, and I was almost mad at myself that I didn't trust my instincts. So, and you can read all the books and you should take advice, but I think it is important to trust your instincts.
And as well, I sort of was thinking about this question, and because it's not advice, but it was...
No, the next question is, a lot of mums have good instincts, but sometimes ignore them because of other advice they're given. What advice do you wish you ignored when you were a new mum?
I wish that people stopped telling me that everything was fine and I was doing really well when I...
Which,
people
again, ties into
me to be okay.
Feeling heard. They tried to fix it instead of hearing,
And because it was too painful for them, it would be, and it was awful, and I suffered and struggled for a long time until, like, I almost fell apart before I got help. I wish people listened to what I said.
How
I'm not coping.
Was that child then when you got help?
Oliver was 3 months old.
Okay.
So, but it was with Ava. So I had postnatal depression with Ava.
Yep.
And so she turned 2 in the February, and Oliver was 5 months old.
And you know what else I'm finding? Some people will get into it and stay in it for a long time when you're really detached. And for someone else, like for me, it's non-linear, and I can have good days. So I think I'm putting footage out there where I'm looking great, and then people will reach out thinking, oh, she looks good, she's doing great, let's catch up. And I'm on the floor broken. I'm like, I'm broken. I can't call you. I can't I can't even text this right now because I'm broken because Allan went away and Leo screamed in my ear for 24 hours straight. And I'm so lucky. I have the loveliest neighbours, and I have a woman upstairs that will text me going, do you need me to come down for 10 minutes and hold him? Do you want a shower? Do you want it? I haven't yet.
Okay, say yes.
And I said the other day, the next time she does that, I think it was new, and I think I also feel guilty of, but she's with her grandkids all the time. She's like, you know what? If he's crying with you, he'll cry with me. What's the difference? But funnily enough, he cries a lot less with other people. I should just say, and I will. And I will when I'm struggling.
She wants to help.
Yeah.
And so if you let her help, then she feels good.
Yes, absolutely. The help is high.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a thing. Next time I will say yes, because sometimes it's just, even if I stayed here, but her holding him and me not having that screaming in my ear, I don't care how mentally strong you are, that will chip away at your soul, having a child scream in your ear for 24 hours. And I think I was saying Allan got off the plane and was going to go do work things. And I was like, come
And that's
home.
really brave. You have to say what you need. He doesn't know what you need.
Yeah.
To say. And with the, accepting help, I read something recently, like as a child, my mum used to bring sugar around to our neighbour, and our neighbour would bring us back some, eggs. And I always wondered why my mum accepted the eggs when we had eggs in the fridge. Because it was like...
It made her...
You need an excuse, like, to go to the person, and it makes them feel needed and wanted. We're missing that, like, with the, can I borrow some sugar? Do you need a lemon?
Don't have that.
But we're really lucky, and I think you are too, that that's what we're going to do for each other, but we can be a lot more open.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need the excuses. We can say, I'm going to come over because I know that what it's like to be a new mom and I want to help.
I think that if they didn't want to do it, they wouldn't offer.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of women have the people-pleasing thing, what I call an apologetic personality. This is what I call, when you're standing, say you're in a lane and the light goes green and you're meant to go, but you're waiting for someone to hop in the car. I'm the person who will have an anxiety attack that I'm holding up people behind me.
Yes.
Some people go, it's all right.
Yes.
They can wait. Like when I was getting dropped off at the hospital for appointments and I had an Uber and I was on a walking stick then and I'm going really slow and he's like, they're fine. They can wait. And he made me feel really good. Like, you know what? No one's going to die. Well, maybe it was a hospital, but no, the ambulance had their own entry. It's fine. So it's the same thing. You're not putting anyone out if they're offering it.
Yes,
so say
100%.
yes. And I think you said accept help. And you gave really good advice that when people come over to visit you in the beginning, make sure they're there to help, not guests for you to entertain. Yes. So, and I've had friends say, I can come and clean for you. And
excellent.
I don't want them to do that. I feel really, really guilty. But
you might want them to bring you a coffee.
Yeah.
Or you might want to go out and get a coffee.
I might want them to hold him.
Yes.
And when I go out, I said I've been really social with Leo from week one. And, we've always got like nephews, footy games. And, I just seem to have birthday parties every weekend. I don't hold Leo once. And Alan's like, where's our child? Everyone's like, give me that child. Yeah. And it's like my friends' mums, they all want to hold him.
And you get to see him from far away.
It's a day off. You know what? He's not even looking for me. That kid's fine. He is social. Look how he was with you. He's looking in your eyes. He wasn't looking for me. Like he's good. Yeah. He's, he just likes to feel held and he likes to feel seen. So it's reprieve for me. So when I'm solo parenting, when Alan's away for a day, I have a friend that will do it for 2 weeks. Oh my God. It's relentless. Yeah. And I just need.
And it's not fun.
It's not.
And then you can be a bit resentful of the other parent when they come home.
A bit. I'm always like, you wake up and go straight to the gym. You go get your hair cut. I have to book you in advance to go do one thing for myself.
That's often our fault, though. That's mums. Yes. We need to get out of our own way.
That's true. I think
we don't need permission to leave the house, but we feel like we do. And
you also said with husbands, they're not going to put the dishes away the way you do, but let them and don't correct because you need the help. So accepting help is really, really true.
It wasn't advice I ignored, but I wish people didn't tell me I was okay just because they wanted me.
Absolutely. Well, while we're touching on that, the last question I want to ask you are what are some support services for mums doing it tough out there? So this is a conversation I'm having with my mum friends at the moment. And it's not, it's almost like you don't want to admit sometimes. And I'm really open about, mental health issues, but it's almost like I don't want to admit because I'm like, no, he's a good child. Like it's, and it's, I think I was saying this to you too. It's not, I know I remember what I wanted to say. It's not, because it's not Leo. I'm like, when I say him, I'm really happy. It's the relentless thing and the constantly doing things. This really, really makes sense to me. Someone once said online, and some people wholeheartedly agree, it's a really divisive thing, and some people don't. You can love your children to death and hate being a mum. And that really, this was when I was pregnant. This was because I was very apprehensive to have kids. I waited so long because I love my time. I love the things I do for myself. I love my independence. I got to a place, I think, where I liked who I was. So I wanted to spend as much time in her as I could.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And
what a great place to be before you have.
Exactly. So I was relishing that time, and I felt nervous that I had to let it go. Oh, I feel like I'm going to cry because I did. I felt nervous.
That's so brave.
But I didn't know the child either. So once I met Leo and there's a personality and a face to it,
Yes.
I'm like, I get it. You know, like it was just an idea of a child before. It makes so much sense to me. Now, you can absolutely love your children and hate being a mum because it is a really relentless job. It ages you. It takes your time. Like I'm discussing with friends now who have children who are 9 and in school, and still there are struggles. There are daily struggles. And it's also like, it doesn't matter how supportive your partner is. I'm sorry, in society, it always comes down to you. There's a newsreader for Channel 9 who is she travels to Europe, and people are constantly writing comments to her, why are you leaving your children at home? She said, no one ever said that to my husband when he was the Europe correspondent, or whatever it was. Like, no one's asking men that. They're always saying that to women.
And I bet it's women asking women that too.
It always is. I've said it in many episodes. Unfortunately, the most misogyny I've received has been from other women.
From women.
It's heartbreaking. I just think it's so tragic. We need to be raising each other. Yeah, absolutely. So it's the hardest job in the world because there's just no let up. You can't take 4 weeks annual leave from being a mom. You can't have a sickie. You're there all the time. And then if you're not perfect, you're judging yourself. Like you're feeling guilty that, like I'm like, oh, shut up, Leo, if he's screaming. And I'm like, I'm a bad mom, but it's not. I'm human.
And I think if you look at it as a job, it's actually easier because that is your job. Like my job is to raise these 2 children and to help them be the best that they can be. Yeah. Not who I want them to be. Yeah. Or not comparing them to each other.
Oh, I love that. I sort of see it as Leo's not here to be an extension of me. Yes. And I feel sometimes that's sort of an experience I've had. It's more that I've been assigned the task to guide him. Yeah. And it's hard. Like, I saw this
understatement.
I saw this Instagram video where there's a woman crying in the car, and it's like me crying because my son's going to get married and leave me. And then it's like my son, and he was a newborn baby. It's like she was already mentally preparing herself.
This is what I say. Somebody asked me a question. And I said, having a baby boy is like having the longest breakup in the world. And I watch Oliver, and, I remember being pregnant. I remember having him, and it's like the longest breakup. And with Ava, it's different because she's a girl, but it's like, I don't own my children,
I'm so glad you say that. And I feel like some parents and in older generations, it is like that. Like you're an extension of them. You're a reflection of them. Yes. You're not. I'm such a different person to anyone in my family. Like it was, I believe in the blueprint of life. This is my personal belief that I picked on the other side what sort of relationships and life lessons I wanted in this life. And I picked, my parents and my partner for a purpose, to learn something about myself. So like, and then I sort of believe that in the next life it could switch, like they could be my child, you sort of see the same stuff. That's just my personal belief. Not everyone has to believe that, but I'm here as his designated like guidance person, but it is Leo's life, and Leo will do what Leo will do. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Like I'll cry buckets if he, does things that, I think are upsetting, but I have to let him do it. And I have to let him make mistakes and be there to soothe him, and not because he won't be a stronger person if I'm preventing the bad things from happening to him.
I used to try and remove all the obstacles from my children's lives, but that's for me.
And why that's a problem? Because when they go out into the world and in the workplace, there's no one else there trying to remove the obstacles, and they're confused. Why are people not making this easier for me? I used to have this ex where it was one of my hardest relationships, but his parents were divorced, and it was like they were competing to be the better parent, constantly telling him he was the best in the world, the most gorgeous person. He had a like a narcissist. It's almost like he had a good heart. He wasn't an evil person, but he was such a narcissist and so much ego that it was, he was just cheating, and like it was an impossible relationship. Yeah. But I almost feel sorry for him because his parents created this he didn't stand a chance, an unrealistic image of how he would be treated out in the world. So when he got out in the world and people weren't telling him, you're amazing, you're good at everything, it was almost like a shock.
Yes. He was removed from reality.
Yes.
It wasn't.
Yeah. So if we're making life easier for our kids, when they go out into the workplace and no one's doing that, they're going to struggle. So the best thing we can do is let them make decisions. And the best way to make those decisions is to stuff up. In my very first episode, it was about diving in and trying something new. And I related one of my favorite life lessons. It's from Sarah Blakely Invented Spanx, the underwear that holds you sucked in. She is great. You're on Instagram. You should follow her. She's really motivating. But I will. I feel she's very, very motivating. She's just she's very warm and natural too. And her dad would ask her and her brother at the dinner table every night, how did you fail today? And it is something, I got goosebumps because it is so the number one parenting thing I want to do with my kids so that because I will ask Allan, what was your favorite part of today? Like, I'm interested in that. But I want to ask them how they failed because if you're not failing, you're not trying something new. You can't go out and be perfect at things. And I think a lot of the time, it would be setting up unrealistic expectations for your kids if you're not allowing them to stuff up, if you're not allowing them to fail. So I want to do that so that they have the bravery because I think a lot of kids, I know I was like this, they want to, get the pat on the head that they did a good job. And so I was always wanted to show my dance trophies and look what I did. But, would hide if I didn't do something well, like I failed. It's not failure. I even said in this episode, WD-40 that you use to spray it's water displacement 40th attempt. So they had 39 failed attempts, but they just kept going until they found it worked. So it wasn't a fail. It was part of success. The failure is part of success. It's part of the process. Like
at our dinner table every day, we'll say, what was the best part of your day?
Oh, you do that too?
Yeah. What was the worst part of your day?
Yeah.
What could you have done better?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Yep. Because it's kind of like rewriting the day. Or it's
learning from mistakes.
It's learning from the mistake without actually saying, how did you fail?
Yeah.
I like that. It's more.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
But they can relate to that. And, whose bucket did you fill today?
So
when we say cup.
This is called Can I Get a Refill?
So we talk about filling buckets and filling cups.
Now that's teaching them to do good for others. So
and because when they do good for others, they feel better.
Help is high. Yep. It's a thing.
And so that's just normal standard around our dinner table. I mean, the dinner table is not harmonious. I mean, there's always somebody, dropping food or laughing or talking, but we're together. And I suppose for me, that's so important to have that time around the table. That's how we were brought up. Time around the table, and we don't all have to eat, but we all have to be there.
That is so perfect. Let's end the episode there. That's a lovely way to end it. And I hope that I can have that with my kids, at least on a Sunday night, and have that time and not like the eating and rushing off and having time when you connect. I think it's beautiful. Before we end, I do like to ask my guests what's something you'll be doing to fill up I normally say cup, but what are you going to do to fill up your bucket this week?
I think it's actually really important for me to have time alone, which is interesting because you said
very
the same.
Apt for this episode.
Yeah, because I used to think, I'll go and I'll do something and be productive to fill my cup. Yeah. But actually, I will go to the beach for a sunrise walk by myself.
Rest is productive.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Please make sure you do that. I will text you in a week to make sure you do. I'll keep you accountable. I'm very grateful for you being here. I hope everyone got a lot of enjoyment out of this. You're a wealth of knowledge, and the proof is in the pudding with your wonderful children. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I hope you'll have me back. And we have
Definitely.
Lots more to talk about.
We have lots to talk about. Let's touch base. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. If you do, please jump online and leave a review for us. It really helps us to get our voices to continue to be heard. Thank you so much for being with us, and please take some time to fill up your own cup. Catch you in the next episode. There is no resource more valuable than time, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Your voice is so important, and we would love to hear which topics you would like discussed in future episodes. Please reach out via Instagram at Can I Get a Refill podcast or on our private Facebook group to let us know. If you enjoyed this or previous episodes, we would be so grateful if you could please subscribe, rate, and review to help our voices continue to be heard. Catch you in the next episode.